Welcome back. A recent white paper called Life on Demand tried to assess how we cope with the 24/7 invasive nature of mobile technology. Some of us just shut it out one day out, maybe have 7, while others turn to transcendental meditation. To get the full expose, we have a panel including Stephen Miller from Microsoft Australia, futurist Morris Mizalowski, who's in Melbourne, and the festival director of Vivid, Jess Scully. Jess, are you really the director or not?
I'm the festival director of Vivid Ideas.
Okay. So we'll come to you in a minute. We should start with you first, Stephen, because you're from Microsoft, and a company like yours would have pushed a white paper. They would have liked, Vivid would have liked a coloured paper, not a white paper.
Okay. It had to be white and straight down the line.
Okay, so why did you do it and what did you find?
Yeah, so it was interesting. We did it because we wanted to find out how people were grappling with this notion of technology and work and play life. And we've heard a lot about how work and controlling your life and technology is sort of starting to bring that in. And we went in with that expectation to see those results.
Yeah.
What we found was something a little bit different. We found that people are actually quite well in control of how technology is impacting their work and their play life, and they're using it to their advantage. So they're starting to work from home, work from anywhere, but also play at work, which was something that's a little bit different than what we'd expected to see.
Now, Microsoft is a very caring company who doesn't like to abuse their potential customers. Could it be that these people don't know how absorbed they are? Because I see young people, and I've even seen myself doing this. Well, I'm watching a television program, I'm writing something on my laptop, maybe getting some information. At the same time, I'm checking my mobile phone in case something new's coming in. And this is called normal now, isn't it?
Well, I think what people were saying in the survey, though, is that they feel in control of that. In fact, the vast majority are saying that they feel that it's actually benefiting them, that they're doing stuff that would ordinarily have taken them a lot of time, and now they can manage their lives in better ways.
So it's not a tyranny of technology.
It's not a tyranny of technology. And for us at Microsoft, what we wanted to see was, well, how can we help them manage that life better so that they can do more and get more out of their day. That's what we're trying to help achieve.
Okay, let's go over to Melbourne tomorrow, because Morris, you are a business futurist. Were you surprised that these, like being as a futurist, you knew the answer anyway, but I'll ask you a question anyway. Were you surprised that we feel as though we're not being burdened by technology?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I knew the results of the survey. I knew we were going to do it a long time ago. but past all of that, we're really reaching a new era of using technology. I refer to it as being over the hype of the red cordial. We've spent about the last decade being besotted by the box, and we're now past it. We just want to tame it. We want it to be useful in our lives and purposeful in our lives. And the title Life on Demand really does summarise all of that, because most people that have been using the technology for a while have just said, look, I wanted to do X, Y, Z. It comes in and out of my life. I know it's in my pocket, my handbag, or my briefcase. It comes to work. And I live a fluid life now. And that fluid life lets me do whatever I want to do wherever I am.
Okay, the only thing that worries me, Morris, is that we now, and I've seen it even at conferences where I'm speaking, and I know how interesting a speaker I am and how I can capture an audience, and I get this feedback all the time, but I still will see some jerks going to their mobile phones, and just in case something even more interesting than me comes through on their mobile phone. What's going on there?
Well, I think in your case it's really easily explained. They're actually sharing the wisdom across the digital world.
Yeah,
they're telling everybody what it is you're telling them.
They often tell me they do that. You're right, yeah.
I actually don't mind that. When I speak at conferences, I actually tell everybody to turn their mobile back on. As long as they're not using it for speaking. I'd like to think that they're researching, maybe they're looking up some of the URLs. And honestly, if they're engaged in something else, then more power to them. I mean, it's a fluid society.
Jess, tell us about your role in Vivid, because Vivid to me is a whole lot of crazy lights all over Sydney town, which most people thought would be a complete waste of time, and everybody loves it. It's worked brilliantly. So what is your role at Vivid?
Well, the reason that I'm interested in this research is that Vivid Ideas is, I guess, the think tank element of Vivid Sydney. So while all that exciting stuff is happening on the streets and it's attracting people from all over the country and all over our region to come to Australia, at the same time we're hosting hundreds of business-focused events that really use that city as a backdrop. while we're having conversations about the future of business, the future of innovation and technology. So a discussion like this that Microsoft has raised is really interesting to us because it predicts how we will work, how we will consume, and how we will communicate with each other. And what's interesting to me really is how we shift from being this kind of consuming culture technology, consuming media through technology, to actually using these incredibly powerful devices that we have at our fingertips for creating new content, creating new opportunities and platforms and businesses as well. So, you know, the research has shown that there's 31 million connected devices in Australia. So there's more devices like tablets and smartphones and laptops connected to the internet than there are people in this country.
Yeah.
So we're a hugely connected country. We're a very creative country. We're a net exporter of content on YouTube, for example. So there's more Australian content uploaded to YouTube than there is downloaded and watched on YouTube, which is extraordinary. So I'm interested in how this technology and our access to it is going to shape what the businesses of the future will look like.
Stephen, because as Jess said, the calibre of the machinery is so good, are people kind of stumbling on business opportunities just walking in the street?
Yeah, and I think that's what you are seeing. Innovation is coming from anywhere, and the ability to manage technology for your work life and your play life means that opportunities come up all the time. And that's really one of the things that we want to see from industry and from business as well. We want to see them explore what technology can do for their people and how they can come up with new opportunities that will enable them to enter new markets as well. So for us, it's about this proliferation of devices and services and technology, and what does it mean for Australia's future creativity and Australia's future potential for opportunities that are not just limited to Australia, but stuff that they can take overseas as well.
Morris, is this, in fact, I interviewed Kim Williams as an interview which I'll show next Monday when his book is launched, but he actually made the point there's this enormous shift away from producers to consumers. And I've got to say, in my own life, I was walking down the street the other day and I saw a really funny thing involving my dog, and I took the photograph and I could see myself actually using it in a presentation, which could have been content that once upon a time I might have bought from a designer or something like that. Are people just sort of stumbling on business opportunities all the time because they're living with these wonderful devices?
I think we've always been stumbling on great innovation. The difficulty we had in the past was actually doing something with it. By the time we took that idea, took it back to our office, remembered that we even had it, it was long gone. By the time we tried to get some resource around it, that was difficult. But nowadays, with crowdsourcing, with the internet being readily available, we can push the idea out to a marketplace, we can push the idea out to other people. We can actually get it fertilised and going right there on the spot. And I think that's the great possibilities that we're seeing now. We don't have to worry about when and where. If it's a great idea, let's start thinking about it now. Let's see who we can attach to it now. Let's get life on demand happening where and when we want it. That's the big difference for me.
Stephen, what other unusual, one of the things I drew out in my introduction was the fact that some people are actually using meditation and they do use a direct consequence of the fact that they do have a high-powered life.
No, I think what you're seeing is 18 to 35-year-olds were the ones that were using meditation and tech timeouts most commonly.
Yeah.
I mean, I give my kids tech timeouts as well from their students, but people are actually starting to use that as a break from technology. And that was one of the interesting findings, is although people are starting to feel that they're in control of it, it is raising questions about the etiquette that they use when they're using technology.
What percentage actually did feel as though it was really invading them? And it was a small percentage?
It was a small percentage.
It really was, yeah.
But what people were saying is that 71% were starting to feel like they needed to set some rules around how people used technology. So that was some of the interesting findings in that, where people felt it was rude for people to use their phone whilst they were having a conversation. But people were actually doing it at the same time as well. So lots of interesting contradictions in what people were actually doing and how they felt about it.
So, Jess, have you read the paper?
I have.
Okay. Now, what great ideas did you get for vivid business ideas or big ideas after reading that paper?
I think that always on culture that we live in, I think, is a huge opportunity, because what people really want are productivity tools that will simplify their lives and mean that they get the most out of the technology and they don't become a slave to it. The challenge with this always on, always at work, always connected sort of culture is that people often lose out on that downtime. And so how can businesses and big corporations use the flexibility that this technology provides without infringing on people's personal lives, or perhaps offering them up more time to be connected to each other and be connected to their families and their pursuits. And in the end, that leads to kind of better workers and happier people. So I'm interested in how a couple of leading Australian companies are really leading the charge when it comes to flexible working and taking advantage of the technology that we have. So companies like Telstra, for example, are really focused on allowing their employees to work flexibly. The NAB are also interested in trialling these sorts of things. Whereas you have some other people on the other side of the fence, like Yahoo, have famously said now that they're not allowing anyone to work remotely and they want everyone in the office having FaceTime all the time. So I think we have the technology. Now the next phase is a cultural shift, and employers learning not to demand that presenteeism and knowing that people can deliver without being physically there or always on.
Okay. Morris, I saw a very funny episode of Veep the other night where it was a wedding and they had a big fishbowl, and they made everyone at the wedding put their mobile phones into the fishbowl, and of course the operatives for the Vice President had seconds up their underwear, I think. But do you think that some enlightened organisations may well turn around and say, some days we might have a technology-free hour or something like that?
I think we're already seeing it. There's a big push towards a technology sabbatical where people take an hour or two or a day off. And when corps are building their new offices, it's quite usual now for them to build an area where Wi-Fi doesn't penetrate, where people have to be without technology in that space. And I think as a culture what we need to do is to start pushing back on some of the boundaries we let go before and say, look, after 5, after 6 or whatever it is, I'm not answering the phone, I'm not answering the email, I'll be back tomorrow. What I loved about the report was the notion that humanity is coming back to technology. We know it's there, we know there are great tools we can use, but what we're going to do from now on is really just become the master of them.
One last question, just you, Stephen. You look as though you're young enough to remember a time when people said it's very valuable for people in business to actually try and find 30 minutes a day just to think.
Yes.
Do you think maybe that's the sort of thing that we could actually get out and allow technology, informing all young people that sometimes 30 minutes of thinking may well actually make them even better at using their technology?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, and I know that with my team at Microsoft, that's something that we encourage as well, making sure that you're taking time to actually think about what you're doing and how you're delivering better for people as well. So
okay, guys.
I think that's important.
Very interesting. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
And we look forward to more from Vivid. Okay, so coming up after the break, Lance Sly, he's back. Will he be telling us there's a market melt-up, or should we be worried about the future? Lance, he's back. Thank God.